Read my fax!
They still use faxes?
Okay, you made this video in 2015, but even in the apocalyptic future of 2021, we still use faxes.
Biff comes back after giving younger Biff the sports almanac, but nothing in this future has changed at all. It should be the nightmarish Biff future right now.
No, because as explained in this movie, when someone goes to the past and changes something, they do not change their original timeline, but instead create a brand new timeline. However, they can still be affected by those changes if it affects their existence, which is why Marty was fading in the previous movie. In a deleted scene, right after Biff comes back with the DeLorean, he fades away and dies, which is consistent with the logic presented in the first film.
As we can see in this scene that was also cut from the film, Biff is literally erased from existence in the year 2015.
This is why in the theatrical cut, Biff appears to be laboring and in pain when he
Oh, okay. Just so you know, it's raining outside. That's yeah. But yeah, I actually like that. I kind
of noticed that.
Yeah.
I saw him fall, but I never saw him disappear.
Yeah,
that was a good detail I've learned.
Yeah, actually, I remember when I first watched the movie, I was kind of saying, wait, shouldn't he be disappearing right about now? Then when I see him like struggling, I'm like, okay, he's gonna disappear soon. And then I find out that there was a deleted scene where they did show him disappear. I don't know. They don't give a good reason. If I was to guess,
because I've not seen this, so it was actually deleted.
Yeah, it was a deleted scene.
Because this guy watches a movie which are not got all the scenes.
Yeah.
Where do you get those?
The deleted scenes from like the original DVDs and such.
Oh, they have them.
Yeah.
Oh, so this guy, so they criticized from the original DVDs.
Yes.
Okay.
And so like, what's this? If I were to guess why it was a deleted scene, I would say probably because it was like a bit too dark. Maybe not time. Are you saying how fast that was?
Literally erased from existence in the year.
You wouldn't have lost any time if you had to die.
2015.
This is why in the theatrical cut, Biff appears to be laboring and in pain when he returns from 1955.
I remember bars being on these windows.
Really? How often do you go to your own girlfriend's house then? Bars on windows is something that should be black and white, not fuzzy and vague.
How much do you want to bet there is someone watching this video that hasn't realized they have bars on their own windows until right now?
Uncle Panda, do we need to talk?
No.
Okay, he doesn't have bars on his window, guys.
No bars here, guys.
You can come rob him.
He'll be on the other side.
Because I'm
On which side? Oh, that side. Okay.
willing to wager there are at least 3.
Despite a massive worldwide change due to Biff's gambling success way back in 1958, Michael Jackson still somehow made Thriller and Off the Wall exactly as he did in the normal timeline.
That's because even in an alternate timeline, Michael Jackson is still hot shit. Beyonce could never.
Dedicated to Hill Valley's #1 citizen.
It's at this point that Marty should already be zooming on over to Doc Brown's place to stop him from tearing the time machine apart.
Right, because after being in a gunfight and stumbling over to Biff's hotel, I'm sure he has the clearest of minds right now.
Learn the amazing history of the Tannen family, starting with his great-grandfather, Buford Mad Dog Tannen.
See, this is the kind of awesome foreshadowing and cohesion you can get when you film sequels simultaneously.
I appreciate the sin removal, but what I don't appreciate is when you make the removal sound but still add a sin anyway. Who edited these videos back in 2015? The dude that codes for CD Projekt Red?
That's the thing I also noticed with a lot of Cinemasins videos recently is that they will make the sin removal sound, but they will still add a sin. They think I'm a moron.
They remove the sound.
No. You know, when they remove a sin, they have a sound to go with it. Because every time they add a sin, they go ding, right? Yeah. So every time they remove a sin, it's the reverse of the ding, zing, like that, right? Okay. So what I've noticed recently is that in some of the videos where they say they're removing a sin, they'll make the sound, but they won't remove the sin. They'll add another sin. And I'm like, but why? But why though?
They want to keep the same music. Don't want to pay the music guy extra.
Lorraine, who was never into Biff, marries him anyway because of something vague about financial troubles or some... Oh, and to give an emotional reason for Marty to change this future.
Jeremy thinks women don't marry because of money. Apparently, he hasn't seen the Men in Black worm that was harassing LeBron.
When I learned about your father, I figured you'd come here.
So you found out Marty's dad died at the exact same time Marty found out? That's amazing timing.
Considering both of these guys just came back from the future, there's nothing amazing about this. Besides, where does the movie say they found out at the exact same time? Marty was here way before Doc was, so it's obvious they found out at different times, but ended up at the same place. Remember, Doc traveled here by car, and Marty got here on foot.
And gave the book to himself at some point in the past.
Yeah, but why was he allowed to return to the original timeline while these two got sucked into the old version?
That's not how this works. If you watch this scene a little longer, Doc explains it for you.
It demonstrates
precisely how time travel can be misused and why the time machine must be destroyed.
Right, so we go back to the future and we stop Biff from stealing the time machine.
We can't, because if we travel into the future from this point in time, it will be the future of this reality.
As I explained about old
Yeah.
Biff dying in the deleted scene, the alternate timelines change gradually. This is why Marty and deleted scene Biff began fading away. There needs to be some catalyst that marks the change, and when that happens, everything changes.
Crazy old codger with a cane shows up. He says he's my distant relative. I don't see any resemblance.
Biff has literally zero reason to tell Marty any of this.
Other than the fact that he plans to kill him, thereby keeping this knowledge a secret anyway?
You couldn't match up the bullet that killed your old man.
You were firing at him earlier. Now you're monologuing.
Look, I know this is a movie trope, but taunting someone is entirely within Biff's character, and he has Marty dead to rights.
Good for you, Marty. Biff can still shoot you, right?
Yeah, but would you think about shooting someone when you're being presented with a flying DeLorean? You really have a problem with people being shocked by fantastic things and not exactly thinking clearly.
A walkie-talkie so we can keep in contact.
When the did you buy those?
During the time Marty was being chased by Biff around the hotel and Lorraine was poking out her tits?
The manure. I remember that.
Why wouldn't you remember that?
Because it was 60 fucking years ago?
Biff literally tries to lift up Lorraine's skirt on the downtown square in broad daylight, and no one cares but Lorraine.
Well, I mean, it is 1955.
I mean, Jesus. Have you ever seen a movie this fucking clever?
Again, I appreciate the sin removal, but you put the sin counter up instead of down a second time.
Why do they keep doing this?
Guess how many sins we're going to give you for that? That's right.
Guys, what's that?
This is literally the only move Marty McFly has in his arsenal, and it still works.
And you're wondering why it's the only move he has in his arsenal? And doesn't this movie have a scene where this doesn't work? Let me see. Oh, here it is.
All right, Bug. I mean, look.
Yep.
Good thing this is one of those chases where only the principal characters are driving down the road at this very moment.
Again, this is 1955. It's not like there are a ton of people that own passenger vehicles in the first place.
That'll teach him.
Biff seems to be glad about committing murder, and he doesn't the least bit care that he just did more than $300 damage to his car right there.
Yes, Jeremy, the character that we have been shown is murderous doesn't care about committing murder. It's also funny that he assumes he cares about $300 worth of damage to his car at this point, when Biff literally has a book that he knows will make him a millionaire.
Yeah, no more Pleasure Palace, but the exact same matchbook? Wouldn't it be cooler if the whole matchbook just disappeared?
Same question Future Birdman asked me about Cinemasins when he came back from the future.
Same here. Why would he have been honored on that same day? Wouldn't it be cooler if it just told us someone else got murdered?
Same question I asked PB about the election when I unfortunately stumbled into this dystopian timeline. Where I'm from, Hillary won. Don't get me wrong, it's shit too. But we never had idiots try to take over the goddamn Capitol building.
And that's what you're trying to tell me with Trump and the Capitol building. Yeah.
Okay, it's very political.
Clint Eastwood never won anything like this.
Hey, who?
That's right. You haven't heard of him yet.
The movie is a dick to Revenge of the Creature.
If the critic reviews of the time were any indication, well, I'll just let Joe Budden describe it for you.
Hear me good. I'm here to double down. That shit is a two-pack of ass. The fuck are you talking about? That shit stinks.
I'm not gonna lie, I actually thought Clint Eastwood was a real historical figure. Like he was a cowboy, like he was an actual cowboy from the West.
Oh,
not an actor.
So much actor though.
So this was the second. What did you think of it?
Oh no, I like the way this guy is good or whatever. It seems this guy is, like I said, I wouldn't like his job. He's paying too much attention to the movie.
Yeah, I honestly, there's some videos where I try to like do his job. I've obviously given credit to him, so it's not like I steal it. But there are definitely times where I try to riff on Cinemasins. I remember I did it for the video on Incredibles 2 and the video on Animal Crackers, right? And I kind of gave my take on their videos, and I'm like, wow, this job is actually hard because Cinemasins, they release like twice a week, right? At minimum. They do other stuff like with other channels, but like on their main channel, twice a week. And I'm like, imagine having to watch their videos, then watch the actual movie, then write a script, then make a video criticizing them. That is so much
Does he
work.
get paid for this?
Yeah, he gets paid by
Yeah,
YouTube.
because that's what I'm saying. if it's a job, I understand it's a job he's doing.
Yeah.
But because there's too much you to do that in your free time.
Yeah.
I have no time for a real job then.
Yeah, no, this is a real job. As you can see, he has a lot of subs, so he gets paid for this. But I saw that myself, and I'm like, wow, this is a lot of work. I remember when I did it for The Incredibles, I'm like, hey, I should do this. I should make this a regular thing. This was kind of fun. Then I just see so many Cinemasins videos, and I'm like, okay, there's no way I can keep up with this. I'm just done. And then I only came back for
drop out of school maybe.
Yeah, and then I remember I came back for Animal Crackers, and the only reason I did that is because the guy who made Animal Crackers actually talked to me personally on my YouTube channel. So I'm like, at the very least,
I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah.
So jealous he actually gave reply to you or whatever.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, at the very least, let me make this video just for him then. Yeah, but no, this job is hard, I'm not gonna lie. So, final part, here we go. Back to the Future Part 3.
Haven't seen the previous video in this series? Follow the link on your screen or click the link in the description or pinned comment below.
Seconds of Universal jacking off to itself.
Exactly my point in the Back to the Future 1 video. That video had 37 seconds of logos and they didn't make a peep about it. Oh, but add one more second.
Then everyone loses their minds.
Back to the Future 3.
But
Everyone loses their mind.
yeah, so as much as I hate to admit it, I kind of will side with Cinemasins on this one, because that's like 3 or 4 Universal logos. All of them are still Universal. It's not like saying this company made, this company contributed or this company contributed. It's all Universal. Like if it was different,
I think if they hate you enough of it, you will not get out of your head.
yeah, but that's the thing. Like if it was like different companies, I wouldn't mind it. But it's just one company with 4 logos. That's too much.
You'd spend over an hour in the box office line only to discover that Firebirds was sold out. And in case that happened, the movie waste time show.
Yep.
I still don't know why the original Doc Brown scream couldn't be used. Maybe Robert Zemeckis hated that scream and wanted a better one for the 2 sequels. But to anyone who knows the first Back to the Future inside and out, this new scream is like ear scabies.
Bullshit. I'd argue that this scream was more pleasing to the ears. I'm sure there are some masochists that like to hear this. But Part 3 scream is factually less grating.
Okay, since you're an OG person, like you were the ones, you saw the original Back to the Future, like you were there when it happened. Which scream do you think was better? The first one or the third one?
First one sounds more authentic to me because the way he ends up saying, ha ha, you know, ha ha. That's Doc to me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's unique to Doc.
Okay.
The other scream, anybody could have screamed like that.
Okay.
Yes, that's my take.
All right. Well, you heard it from here, folks. He was there when the movies came out.
Minute of credits over a real estate listing.
Whoa, are we sending credits now, too? Well, this opens up a legitimate new can of worms now, doesn't it? I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark had credits all the way up to the 2-minute mark. Why didn't you send them then? I guess inconsistency is only a sin when others do it.
Hey kids, what time is it?
1955 alarm clocks.
I will be taking no howdy-doody slander today, sir. 5 cents for this malfeasance.
Actually flew.
Yeah, we had a hover conversion done in the early 21st century.
Wow, look who's taking partial credit for the DeLorean's ability to fly. What's this wee anyway, Marty?
Listen, I know that you are hard of hearing, so I will not make fun of you for that. But what I will do is chide you for being hard of hearing and not using subtitles, because Marty clearly says you had a hover conversion done.
Unfortunately, the car will never fly again. It actually flew.
Yeah, we had a hover conversion done in the early 21st century.
And if you had the subs on, you'd know that. I recommend having subs on even if you have perfect hearing.
Einstein!
He's your dog, Doc.
Yeah, I like
Einstein.
subs on movies, except like anime. Yes, I am a proud dub watcher, but like I can't deal with subs on anime because I'm hearing the English voice actors and then I'm seeing the Japanese like English subtitles, right? And they're like 2 completely different sets. But subtitles on like regular English movies, I can handle that. I like that.
That's what you call your dog in 1985.
Oh, it's all right, Copernicus.
Man, you guys went a long way to set up whatever you were trying to set up with this dog named Copernicus. I guess 1955 Doc thinks it's hack to call your dog something too obvious? I don't know. This is one of those scenes that come off super weird in the sequels.
I played this scene in its entirety to show you exactly why this video is 19 minutes long. This is the difference between 2020 Cinemasins and 2014 Cinemasins when they made a Back to the Future video in only 8 minutes. They were no less stupid, but at least they got in and out like a double-double, if you know what I'm saying.
One of this circuit fail says made in Japan.
That's racist.
That's 1955.
Now, one of this circuit fail says made in Japan.
Get it?
Yeah, Japan was true. Japan stuff began being accurate, I think, back in the 70s.
Wait, let's see. 10 years of Japan. That's right. Yeah, because I remember.
It's like China. You see the way things in China are today?
Yeah.
Things, something break, you say, yeah, it's Chinese.
Yeah.
If China keeps going on the way they're going, this system will not end. In 10 years' time, people will be saying that thing is quality because it's Chinese.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the same thing happened to the Japs.
Yeah, and then this is especially bad because this was like what, after 10 years after World War II. Yeah, so this was, so I can imagine how bad it must have been for Japan.
Yeah.
What do you mean, Doc? All the best stuff is made in Japan.
Unbelievable.
What's wrong? What's wrong, Copernicus? Come on.
Oh, you. Did Doc teach Copernicus how to read? This dog has more intuition than when Einstein knew to freak out about an approaching van a mile away in the first movie.
Here's the third time in 3 videos that Cinemasins demonstrates they have literally no understanding of dogs, because even 6 years later, they still don't understand dogs have excellent ears.
Although the
Though
filmmakers
I will also again defend Cinemasins on that point. How the hell did the dog know that the dog was buried there? He couldn't read, A, and B, it's not like he could smell his carcass through the ground. So like I don't know. That to me seemed a bit odd.
for anyone to read the articles on this newspaper.
And let me stop you right there, because nobody cares what fake newspapers say, Jeremy. I know this is like a running gag with you, but Jesus, how many of your subscribers find these interesting? This is exactly why Cinemawins got as big as they did. Pointing out interesting things a movie did is a much more engaging concept than only showing what they got wrong. You absolutely removed sin, so you already had the infrastructure in place. You were just too stupid to corner the market. Silly rabbit.
Buford Tannen.
And actually, that's another thing. I don't know if I mentioned Cinemawins to you, but Cinemawins is another channel that's like in direct, opposition to Cinemasins. Cinemawins mentions everything great about movies.
Positive,
yeah.
yes.
And they
You
actually...
mentioned some, yes.
Huh?
You had mentioned that there's one that gives just a positive side.
Yes. However, we could not find the Back to the Future one for that. But just like Birdman, Cinemawins actually fact checks everything. Like they even point out more Easter eggs in the movies than Birdman does here.
Okay.
I mean, he doesn't.
They have more personnel.
Yeah, they don't like do more research, but they definitely point out like a lot of details in movies. Yeah.
A notorious gunman.
Look, Thomas F. Wilson is great and has provided the first two movies in this franchise with a fun antagonist. But the idea that a Tannen from 1885 would also be involved in the lives of Doc and Marty is ridiculous. I think everyone would have been fine with the movie having a new villain this go-round. We've been perfectly fine without Crispin Glover.
Hold on. The only reason Biff's ancestor gets involved with Doc and Marty is precisely because they go to the past and meddle with time. Besides, you just advocated for one of the most interesting actor-villain combos to not be a thing. I've said it before. Jeremy seeks to make movies worse.
Great Scott, it's me.
God damn it, did Doc say Great Scott as much in the first movie as he does in this one? Or is it just more annoying now?
So what I'm hearing you say is catchphrases are sinful. I guess the apples and assholes thing in lap dance sins makes that a hypocritical thing to say now, don't it?
Clint Eastwood never wore anything like this.
Clint who?
That's right. You haven't heard of him yet.
The movie is a dick to Revenge of the Creature.
If the critic reviews of the time were any indication, well,
Wait, he's doing
I'll
the
just
same
let
thing
Joe
again.
Budden describe it for you.
Hear me good, nigga. I'm here to double down. That shit is a 2-pack of ass. The fuck are you talking about? That shit stinks.
I wrote the letter on September 1st. I will send you back the very next day.
But why not send him back on the 1st or 2 weeks earlier? Doc has been there for a few months before he writes the letter, so why give themselves such a short timetable to work with?
Because of the letter, numbnuts. If Marty goes back before Doc wrote the letter, Doc in 1885 will have never written the letter in the first place, changing the events in 1955. This, of course, means Marty and Doc will have never found the buried DeLorean, preventing Marty from going to 1885 in the first place.
I know they wanted to do this in the middle of nowhere so that when when Marty went back to 1885, the chances of running into anyone would be low. But why did they have to do this inside a drive-in? They could have done this anywhere near here on a road late at night with no traffic, instead of finding a drive-in that just happens to have the perfect length for getting a DeLorean up to 88 miles an hour.
What the kind of complaint is this? They chose a drive-in because it was just as good as any of the other places that you mentioned. It worked, didn't it? Shit, man, this is like asking why did someone pick Charmander instead of Bulbasaur. It's because they fucking wanted to.
This arrow was in no way lodged in the DeLorean before Marty backed it up into the cave. And not one of the Indians shot an arrow at the car when Marty was driving away from them.
Calling Native Americans Indians. Indians are in India, Christopher. Also, they did shoot an arrow into the car because there is an arrow sticking out of the car, proving they did. Just because a movie doesn't explicitly show you something happening doesn't mean it didn't happen. Using your logic, Marty shouldn't exist because we never see Lorraine giving birth to him. See how dumb that sounds?
Mom, is that you?
God damn it, this! Why do we...
Because the truth is, much as they're being told not to use the word Red Indians, for a long, long time until recently, people used to call them, it's only recently it became politically incorrect to call people Red Indians, but for a long time they were called Red Indians.
Yeah, actually, even I was confused because I remember as a kid, I would hear, what's this? We have Indians, and then we have Red Indians or West Indies, and I was always so confused. Like, for the audience here, my grandmother is like part West Indies, and I was always so confused. I'm like, but Indians live in India, right? Like, there's no second India in America, is there? Yeah, so I was always very confused by that as well.
You have to keep churning out the same familiar moments.
Says the guy with hundreds of videos beginning with complaints about studio logos.
Okay, so is it just the slightest bit disconcerting that Maggie McFly looks so much like Lorraine Baines? I know they have to figure out a way to put Leah Thompson in this movie, but maybe not in such a way that the McFly-Baines family tree doesn't fork at all.
This is a legitimate Cinemasins. It makes no sense that this woman looks exactly like Lorraine, especially considering her husband looks like Marty instead of George.
Clint Eastwood?
Jeremy hates fun.
What, Seamus McFly?
Yeah, Seamus McFly has a mustache. No way he cut that off. He also has different hair color, but the no mustache part is what really gives it away.
Right, because something as easily viewable as facial hair is more difficult to see than the hair color of someone wearing a hat in a dank bar.
Marty runs out of a drinking establishment pursued by a tannin, and I'm going to add 100 sins for the constant f***ing repeats. Marty McFly went to the Prometheus School of Running Away from Things, which is disappointing, considering how many times he changed directions the last 2 times this happened.
Notice the irony of Cinemasins complaining about a movie doing something multiple times, and then in the very next breath bringing up the Prometheus School of Running Away from Things?
So, why did Doc have clothes that were in Marty's size? Maybe I don't want to know.
He says, over footage of Marty wearing a shirt 3 sizes too big.
Mr. Fusion powers the time circuits and the flux capacitor. But the internal combustion engine runs on ordinary gasoline. It always has.
Weird that you never mentioned that before. In the first movie, when Marty asked you if it ran on gasoline, you told him that you needed plutonium, suggesting that the plutonium actually replaced gasoline for the car's fuel. When Mr. Fusion came along, you famously said, "I need fuel," and threw a bunch of garbage into it. Every context clue about the fuel of that car has shied away from gasoline until now.
Thus continues the saga of Jeremy's trigger regarding fuel in movies.
Yeah, so that's the thing with Cinemasins, is that apparently fuel is like a trigger word to them because in Star Wars Episode 8, have you seen it, by the way? Last Jedi.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
A long time ago, though.
Yeah. So in Star Wars Episode 8, they complained because like a huge part of the movie was dedicated to the Resistance not having fuel. They went on about the Resistance not having fuel. And they're like, fuel has never been mentioned in Star Wars before. Why is fuel only being brought up now? and then I know they mentioned it in another movie. I can't remember which one. And then they mentioned it here. And they just go crazy when you mention fuel. Yeah.
Jeremy, you know that these movies are beloved movies and that it's very, very easy to fact-check you, right? In the original movie, when Marty asks if the car ran on gasoline, it was in the context of does the time travel components use gasoline? Here's Doc saying that explicitly.
This is heavy duty, Doc. This is great. Does it run like on regular unleaded gasoline?
Unfortunately, no. It requires something with a little more kick. Plutonium!
Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear?
No. This sucker's electrical. But I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity I need.
Also, what are the chances that Claire...
So, the movie gave Cinemasins the answer.
Yes.
He still refuses to accept the answer. So, yeah, these guys very, very ignorant when it comes to cining movies.
Yeah.
Wagon just happened to be
They
right.
get money from doing this. Like, this is a job for them.
Yeah, it's full time for both of them, I guess.
Pass this out-of-the-way spot near this ravine at this very moment.
Considering it's an event that already happened in this movie's history, 100%.
Clayton Ravine was named after a teacher. They say she fell in there 100 years ago.
Yeah, but why was the ravine renamed after her? Clara's a brand new school teacher with absolutely no history with the people in Hill Valley. Seems weird they discover her body and think, let's call this something else in her honor. The stranger did so much for us.
Here's Cinemasins getting that information I just spoke about in the previous sin. Yep, this is how they watch movies. Ask a question, and when that question gets answered, ignore it and turn into Patrick from SpongeBob.
I am trying to be a good person and return it to you.
Return what to who?
And to you, Patrick Star.
Yep.
And this is your ID.
Yep.
I found this ID in this wallet. And if that's the case, this must be your wallet.
That makes sense to me.
Then take it.
It's not my wallet.
According to my calculations, we'll reach 88 miles per hour just before we hit the edge of the ravine.
But it looks like there's a little bit more straight track behind the DeLorean, so why not back it up a bit so you're not cutting it so close?
Straight track, eh? Straight. That's what he said. Straight.
Yeah, that also bothered me. I'm like, you can clearly see there's a curve, my guy.
7-Eleven.
Glad to see the 90s movies following the 80s movie tradition of if you're good at something in video games, then you can do it in real life.
Gran Turismo says, hello.
Maintain discipline at all times. Remember that word, discipline.
I wonder how excited the marshal would be to learn that all his teachings led to a future line of public school principals.
Would probably be about as interesting as This Is a Sin. Not very much.
What's wrong, dude? You yellow!
I don't have anything to say about Marty's trigger words, chicken and yellow, only to say that I hate that they made this part of Marty's character.
Cool. Now that we know your personal preferences, would you mind explaining why This Is a Sin of but of 3?
Sure, and I hope you're considering the future, Mr. Eastwood.
Have I made a comment about these awful Scottish accents yet? Wait, they're supposed to be Irish? That's even worse.
How do you lack this much self-awareness? Leah's Irish accent is much better than your English one, which, I will remind the audience, sounds like this.
I've seen many strange things already. Bloody wolves chasing me through some blue inferno.
What? What do you mean that wasn't footage of Jeremy? It sounded just like him. You sure? All right.
Well, that wasn't the footage I was supposed to use, but I assure you that is what Jeremy sounds like when trying to be British.
Great Scott.
Okay, I get this is the joke, but that guy sounded nothing like British. I don't even know what accent that was.
I was making fun of him.
Yeah.
Oh, this is heavy.
What happens to us in the future? Do we become assholes or something?
Cinemasins, send those lines.
Come on. Jeremy.
I know we were told that the train wouldn't come through till Monday morning, but what if it comes through at an earlier time? Or a different train comes through this track that wasn't scheduled? What if some 1885 hobo wanders onto the DeLorean and starts stripping it down? They're leaving a lot to chance here is all I'm saying. Because if anything happens to this car, they are royally f***ed.
No, they aren't, because that train track isn't finished, meaning literally no train would be coming down this track unless they had a goddamn death wish. This is who you people made famous? The patients are running the asylum.
Don't look at me.
Everybody everywhere will say Clint Eastwood is the biggest yellow belly in the West.
So that's how Rick Dalton got all those roles in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a...
It's a good thing Buford didn't shoot Marty in the face, because what would Marty have done then? I guess die, but seriously, this plan was pretty
We've done this song and dance before, Jer. Shooting someone center mass is proper shooting technique. The human torso doesn't move as much as the head, so going for the head in a showdown could get you killed.
How the f*** did she know they'd be anywhere near here? Did she just ride around hoping to find them and log
Actually,
out?
let me back this claim up. As a person who plays a lot of Fortnite, this is true.
Couldn't have anything to do with the fact that Doc told her he was from the future and that she saw their track model explaining the plan to return to the future now, could it?
Time machine.
We just passed 45. Doc, go for it.
Why does Marty continue to talk into the walkie-talkie even though Doc is not holding his where he can hear it? Also, we will find out in a minute that Doc still does have the walkie-talkie, but where the f*** is he keeping it?
Well, you answered the first part of your question with the second, and I suppose you think pockets didn't exist in 1885, don't you, Slick?
Look, you can tell me the train is this close to the car, but you can't tell me that Marty got the DeLorean's awkward wing door open in time to get out before the train hits it.
Okay, I won't tell you that it happened. Don't need to, because the movie showed it did.
Also, what happens when someone removes themselves from a time period to go to another one? In Back to the Future 2, 2015, Biff says he
This is
remembers
where Birdman explains it again. So hopefully you understand.
when he saw the DeLorean fly off and disappear at the end of the first movie. But Marty disappeared with it and was no longer in 1985. Yet there was still a middle-aged Marty living his life in 2015. The Einstein experiment in the first movie proves there was no Einstein for a full minute. So who was that middle-aged Marty? The only Marty that it could be is the one that experienced both Back to the Future 2 and Back to the Future 3. The one that finally gets to drive his truck with Jennifer like he planned to do since the end of the first movie. But the Marty that experienced Back to the Future 3 is the one that doesn't get into drag racing competitions with the bass player from Red Hot Chili Peppers. So how does the Back to the Future 2 middle-aged Marty exist?
You said all that when you could have simply stated that you don't understand the multiple timeline concept this series presents. The fact is, the timeline has now changed by this point. It only exists if Marty isn't taken to the future by Doc, but because it happened, that future is now erased. This movie reiterates that point by showing Marty not participating in the drag race and the facts disappearing.
Also, Doc figured out how to make a time...
Yeah, so...
In the third one.
Yeah, because, remember, the first time, Marty never went to the future to impersonate his son. But now that he did, and he knows, he's going to the future. So basically, the old Marty from Back to the Future 2 doesn't exist. But the first Marty, the one from Back to the Future 1, does exist, and he's going to become Marty 2, and then they'll start this thing all over again. So it's kind of like a time loop.
A machine out of a train, which may be the most dangerous goddamn vehicle to time travel in. Not a lot of mobility on a train if you re-enter some place where another train is headed your way. But Mr. Glass will be pleased when the inevitable crash happens.
Jeremy is presenting this information as if the time-traveling train is a conventional train that uses tracks in order to travel. The problem with this is that the movie literally shows the goddamn train flying.
Yeah, this was also something that just made me so mad. I'm like, bro, the train is flying. It's in the center of the screen. How do you miss it? That's like imagine if Godzilla attacks the city in real life. Like imagine he came here and somebody's like, man, I'm seeing only a lizard. Like if only this lizard. Like where's Godzilla?
Flying.
Good handles.
Just put a little weight on the heel.
Oh, he's out of town.
Yeah. Right in the middle. There you go.
I think I know this is the original actor of Marty. Like this is Marty's actor, so he's putting on some weird shoes.
It's really great.
Became?
Parkinson's.
What?
You see that Marty behaves funny?
Yeah.
In real life today, he's got Parkinson's.
Oh.
I saw him the other day. He was being given an award for something. He's really struggling with Parkinson's. He can't. It was so sad to see him. They were saying congregation because most Parkinson's guys lie on their bed. He was moving around, but you can see he's struggling to talk.
Oh.
And it's like he's being interviewed. So how did you feel?
I didn't even know that.
Because I noticed he was also jumpy when he was young. So now he actually gets Parkinson's.
Okay.
I can check.
All right, and that is the final part of this
That was
saga.
Very mind-boggling, I say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is, like I said, honestly, that guy puts too much detail in the movie. But I'm glad I saw Twin Pines became Lone Pines.
Yeah.
Never to guess that.
Yeah, I guess you'd really have to look through a movie to see that. So yeah, I enjoyed this podcast. Really enjoyed looking through Birdman's videos, and I like how the points we brought up in the last podcast actually come to play in this video. Birdman, are you secretly watching me? He's probably not. He doesn't even know I exist.
I'll be surprised to get a review.
I don't imagine. So that's Captain's Log. Back to the Future. Have anything to say before we close off, Uncle Panda?
Well, that was, as I said, really eye-opening, mind-boggling, and where do these guys get the time to critique so well? I guess it's a full-time job.
Yeah, it is. It is. And, it's whatever. Definitely not for me. I tried to do this before, not for me. So, yeah. Anyways, go check out the Birdman. Again, his channel is here. Go subscribe to him and whatnot. And, if you could get him to pay attention to me, I would not be opposed to that. Again, I know I said I was going to make like some backup video, but I might as well say it in the podcast. Thank you guys so much for 100 subscribers. I've already finished my big special, so go check out my reviews. I know I made the Me Movie 3.5. I made my Ninjago review, and my Finding Nemo review. Go check those things out. Keep my channel going. And again, we're only here because of you guys. Thank you so much. I have been Captain Phoenix. He has been Uncle Panda. You want to say bye?
Yeah, bye guys. It's been fun. Thank you for sticking with us, and looking forward to see you at the next podcast.
Yeah, and with that, we will see you in another universe. I cannot believe I botched up the ending.